The film's events begin with the professional killer, Hutch, sitting with a dog in front of two detectives, and he looks tired, and on his face and body are serious injuries. And we also notice that his little finger is cut off and still bleeding. And at that moment, Hutch lights a cigarette, his cigarette from that period, to warm up, and then he puts it out and burns with it a specific place of an injury on his hand. So the detectives are shocked by his behavior, and the female detective asks him not to act in this way because he might hurt himself. And the second detective asks, "Who are you? And come with us. Let us introduce you to Hutch." And we learn that Hutch was an officer in the army and retired, and after that he worked as an accounts manager in the company of his wife's father, Becca. And at that moment, Hutch goes back with the events and begins to introduce himself to the detectives. So we see Hutch sleeping and, as usual, he wakes up from sleep and prepares breakfast and checks on his children and goes to his work and comes back to sleep. And the situation continues like this every day until we come to Thursday. So we see Hutch killing a group of criminals and hitting them in a professional way and with tremendous force. So he takes out his weapon and kills more than one of them, and when one of them tries to control him, he grabs his axe and brings it down on him, cutting him. And at that moment, a message comes to him from his wife, Becca, asking him, "Are you going to be late for dinner?" So he lets her know that he is at work, but he will try to go to her quickly, and he apologizes to her for his lateness. And here we see Becca, and she is replying to him in a message, and she is hesitant to tell him the words she has. And after she writes to him that she needs to talk to him, she deletes the message and lets him know that she will wait for him and that she loves him. So he rejoices at her messages and confirms to her that he loves her very much. Here we notice that Becca is not happy and feels boredom in her relationship with Hutch. The next day, Becca prepares breakfast for her daughter, Blenny, and her son, Brady. And before Brady goes out for training, she asks him to clean his plate. And at that moment, Hutch wakes up and comes down to check on them and apologizes to his wife for sleeping in the garage and confirms to her that he didn't want to bother her or wake her up when he came back late. So they ask her, what did Brady do in the match? And she lets them know that he lost and suggests to him to get more details from his son because she is late for her work. And for those who don't know what Becca works from the first part, come let me tell you that she is a real estate agent in the district. And as usual, Hutch is late for the garbage truck, and he quickly goes out with the trash box running after it. So he feels that his wife and children are upset with him, and he stops Becca before she leaves with her car and asks her, what's wrong? So she tells him, the summer appliances are approaching and you still haven't prepared anything. And he confirms to her that he is thinking of a plan so they can spend a nice vacation as a family together. So he lets her know that he will wait for them at dinner to tell them about his plan, and also he will prepare for them the food they love. But he has a mission he must finish first and then come back home. And as soon as she hears that he had a mission, she gets angry and moves the car. So Hutch feels that she is very upset with him, but is afraid to talk to him so as not to upset him. After that, Hutch goes and sits in a hotel, and as soon as a group of people enter, he looks at them with concentration, so he goes to ride the elevator with them as if he is one of the employees working in the place. After that, he goes to his boss, who is angry and drinking a large amount. So his boss says to him, clearly your day was very long, and he replies to him and says, it was long, unlike what you understood of me. And he gives him the data cards and begins to tell him how the mission was completed. So he tells him that as soon as he entered the elevator, he asked them, was the conference good? So one of the people there got angry with him and said, we are not here for the conference. So before he could grab his weapon, he snatched it from him and started firing at them and asking them about the card, and of course they refused to answer him. So for that reason he got into a tremendous fight with them, and your eye sees nothing but the light. He hit the men in the hands one after the other, and no one among them was able to handle him. So when one of them tried to call security, Hutch snatched the receiver from him and smashed it to silence him and continued fighting and hitting all those present until he finished them off and took the card. But when he got out of the elevator, he was shocked by a group of the Korsikion criminals, and with them were tremendous weapons. And at that moment they all fired at him at the same time, and he was forced to hide and threw a gas pipe at them, blowing them all up. After that, he faced a second group of the Brazilian criminals, and with them were swords and very sharp knives, so he took off his belt and tied it on his hand with a strong electric wire and started hitting them one after the other until he finished them off. And after his boss verifies the safety of the card, he thanks him and lets him know that the mission was worth the trouble, and lets him know they found out that with this mission, he has paid off $800,000 of the debts on him, and $30 million remains. So he gives him the file for his new mission, and Hutch extends his hand to take it while he is in pain, and lets him know that he needs a period to rest because he is very tired. And here his boss speaks and says to him, I am trying to help you pay off your debts. And here we learn that the reason for these debts is his burning of Russian money during his execution of a specific mission. So his boss confirms to him that he paid the money in his place so that he would execute the missions he needs, and lets him know that if he continues regularly like this, he will pay off the money before the end of spring. So Hutch begs him to give him a vacation to rest in so he can return to complete his work in a good mood, and his boss is forced to agree and wishes him a happy and lucky vacation. So Hutch says says to him, "And what is the use of luck?" And his boss replies to him and says, "Your work here is from your nature, and nature always wins, and any place he goes to will remain as it is." And here Hutch remembers the sentence he read on the car of one of the criminals, which is that he spent a distinctive summer in Bloomfield. So he decides to take his children and his wife, and they travel to spend the summer in Bloomerville. And at night, he shows his children and wife videos of the city, and how much it has special places, and a very beautiful amusement city, and also a water park and duck boats. So Becca is impressed with the idea, and his son asks him, "What does duck boats mean?" And Hutch explains to him that they are boats that move in the water in the shape of a duck. So he surprises them that he will take his father with him. And for those who don't know his father, come let us introduce you to him. A retired officer in the federal investigations and currently residing in a nursing home. So he tells them that his father took him and his brother Harry once to Bromville and has many memories in it. So he begs them to agree to the travel and confirms to them that they will enjoy very much, and they all agree, and Hutch is very happy with their decision. After that, they prepare themselves and go to take Hutch's father from the nursing home. And as soon as he arrives, he comes out to them in beachwear, and his grandchildren are dazzled by him. So Hutch asks him for the cigarette before he gets in the car, and he is forced to obey his words while he is angry and puts it out in the palm of his hand. After that, they move to the city, and they keep singing and dancing all the way, and it shows on Becca that she is happy. They arrive after that, and Hutch takes them to their rooms, so his son is shocked when he finds out that he will share the same room with his sister, and Hutch tries to explain to him that he reserved 3 rooms, one for them, one for their grandfather, and one for him and Becca. So Hutch's father suggests they go stay in his old cabin, but Becca refuses, and Hutch's father decides to leave his room for his grandson and go stay in his cabin. After that, Hutch takes Becca to show her her room, and she is very impressed with it and thanks him. And at that moment, their daughter enters on them and lets them know that it's water time. So they prepare themselves and put on their beach clothes and all go out, and Hutch shows them the beauty of the place while he is happy. And when they reach the beach gate, he is shocked when the employee prevents him and lets him know that it is closed until the end of the day due to repairs. So she gives them a food voucher as compensation and apologizes to them. And at that moment, Hutch's father gets upset and decides to spend the time as he likes. So Hutch takes his wife and children, and they go to the restaurant to eat the free sandwiches. And while he is ordering the food, he looks at a specific place in the restaurant and remembers his childhood with his father and brother and smiles. And in that place, the city officer, Habil, is present and asks him, "What are you looking at?" So Hutch apologizes to him and lets him know that he remembered specific memories, but Habil refuses to believe him and remembers he was laughing at him. So he gets close to him and lets him know that it is not polite to look at the city officer in that manner, and Hutch tries to apologize to him and leaves him and goes with the food to his wife and children. At night, Hutch takes them, and they go to play in the amusement park. So Brady plays the tennis game with skill and wins very many tickets, so a group of girls stop to watch him, impressed, and he offers them a bunch of tickets, and they agree to take them. After that, he takes his sister, and they go to play a second game. And on the other side, Hutch sits to talk with Becca and renews with her their love memories. So a young man named Max leans on Brady because one of the girls who took the tickets becomes his girlfriend, and he remembers he was harassing her. So Brady asks him to leave instead of getting into a fight with him. And at that moment, Max and his friends mock him, and he takes the toy his sister won and cuts it. So Brady gets angry and attacks him to hit him, and a big fight happens between them. And as soon as Hutch sees it, he runs to him. And at that time, one of the employees enters and hits Brady. So they let Hutch know that his son attacked them in their city, and this will cause a big problem for them. And when Hutch tries to explain to him what happened, he refuses to listen to him, and their voices rise. So Becca gets angry and asks Hutch for them to leave without any problems. And while they are walking, the employee hits Hutch's daughter on her head with a pen. So Hutch gets angry and leaves while he is silent. But as soon as he gets outside the place, he decides to go back to get his daughter's right. And he asks Becca to go ahead of him to the car because he forgot the phone and will come back to get it. So he opens the door of the place with all his strength while he is angry and attacks the employee to hit him with his hand and breaks the place on him and every person who tries to defend him, and all those present are shocked by Hutch's strength. And during the fight, Becca enters and calls for him to stop the fighting. After that, Hutch and his son are arrested, and Becca tries to explain to the officer that they were defending themselves. On the other side, Hutch talks with his son and advises him to try to hold his nerves a little, so Brady looks at him in surprise and says to him, "You are the one saying that? Did you forget what you did to the employee?" So he lets him know that he is very proud of his action, dazzled by his strength, but Hutch tries to make him understand that he is wrong and advises him not to imitate him in that mistake. So he lets him know that the wish of his life is to be better than him in the future. Here, the officer Habil approaches him with the baton and orders him to move with him, and Brady remains very afraid for his father, but Habil orders him to stay in his place until he brings him back. After that, they take Habil to his office, and Hutch is shocked when he finds a person sitting on the desk and has put his legs in his face. So he asks him, "Do you know who I am?" And Hutch looks at him and says, "Since you are sitting in the officer's office, then surely you are an important person. So that person introduces himself and says to him, "My name is White Martin, and I am the father of Max, whom your son hit. And also I run this entire city with one word." And when Hutch tries to apologize to him, he orders him to shut up. So he gets up from his place and gets close to him and says to him, "God have mercy on you from my hand. My father taught me that tourists have a free pass, meaning they do what they want." And they find out that his son, Brad, caused an injury to the arm of his son, who plays ball with it, and this is a big problem. So Hutch apologizes to him and confirms to him that he will make Brady apologize to his son, and asks him to look at the surveillance cameras to make sure that his son was the one who started the problems first, and that besides, his employee hit his daughter on the head with a pen. So White looks at him with annoyance and orders Habil to release them in exchange for them returning to their country quickly. So Hutch takes his family and they leave, but Habil decides not to leave them alone and asks his assistant to take a group of their men and go finish them off. So the assistant lets him know that White asked them to let them go, and at that moment, Habil replies to him and says, "White's word doesn't apply to me," and orders him to execute it. But after that, they return to the hotel, and Becca becomes very upset with Hutch's behavior and says to him, "You promised me to stay away from problems," and blames him for his son's aggressiveness with those around him, and accuses him of being the reason for it because he imitates all his actions. So Hutch tries to explain to her what happened until she understands. The next day, they go out to continue their vacation, and Becca shoots with very high professionalism, and here we learn that Becca's father and brother are officers, and on the other side, Hutch's father is sitting in his cabin enjoying his time. So we return to Hutch, who is playing with his family in the games, and takes them after that to ride the duck boat. And before they ride, he sees Habil's assistant with a group of his men, so he understands at that time that they have come to take revenge on him. So he tries to pretend in front of Besa and his children that there is no problem at all, until he gets them on the boat and refuses to ride with them under the pretext that he is tired, and he rides the boat after them, and Habil's men ride with them, and with them are an old man and his wife. So as soon as the boat moves with them, Hutch asks them, "What do you want?" So the assistant says to him, "You didn't carry out our words, and took your family and left the city, and for that reason we must teach you manners." And Hutch tries to explain to them that he is with his family making memories so they can remember them when they grow up. And at that moment, they mock him and start attacking him one after the other. So Hutch tries to defend himself and begins to hit them with great force and very high skill, and he is shocked at that time by his strength because the assistant told them that he is just an old tourist who has nothing to do with fighting. So Hutch grabs them to hit them and breaks the assistant's teeth and destroys his face and throws a second one in the sea and hits the third one with the bottle on his head. So the assistant gets angry and gets up to attack him and cuts his finger with the knife. So Hutch is shocked by what happened and loses his balance and falls into the sea, and they think they have finished him off, but they are shocked when they find him coming out to them again and starts hitting them until he finishes them off. After that, Hutch goes to call his brother, Harry, from a cabin in the street and tells him about what happened to him and lets him know that he is in a big problem. So Harry makes him understand that the city of Bloomville has the old trade route that is used for smuggling, and the time their father took them to spend the summer in it was on an official, secret mission, and when the officer Habil felt that he would cause problems for them, he decided to finish him off. At the same time, we see White preparing a shipment of smuggled chemical materials and also a large sum of money. So a friend of White goes and is surprised when he finds the shipment very big and asks him, "Do you need more men because of the problems?" So White looks at him with annoyance and says to him, "If you don't cause problems, there won't be any problem," and they think that he is the city president and must carry out his words literally. So Habil looks at him with annoyance and lets him know that he remembers well and leaves him, and White goes to check on his son. At that time, Becca is looking for Hutch and is surprised by his disappearance, and while they are walking, she notices her daughter, a dog that looks scary, so the worker warns her about it and lets her know that it is a wild, ferocious dog and must remain locked up for safety, and this is the dog that appeared with Hutch at the beginning. And at that moment, the assistant calls Habil and tells him what happened to them and confirms to him that Hutch is not just a tourist and surely came looking for him. And on the other side, Hutch calls his boss and tells him that he is in a big problem, and as soon as his boss knows that he is in the city of Bloomville, he lets him know that it is the city from which drugs, weapons, and viruses come and is considered more dangerous than Canada. So Hutch asks him who controls it, and his boss lets him know that it is a unique woman named Lindina. So he tells him that this city is very important for Lindina, and she considers it her empire, and also he lets him know that she works without borders or restrictions, and his behavior with Habil's men means he has upset the Russians, and they will not rest until they finish him and his family with weapons. So he confirms to him that Lindina will slaughter his family for him, all of them, one by one, before his eyes. Here we see Lindina entering her casino, attacking a person who caused a problem in the place, and stabbing the weapon in his hand and eye without mercy while she is laughing, and she cuts the neck of the employee standing on the table when she feels that he has a wiretap in his ear. When she screams in it, his men appear, and she begins to kill kill them, she and her men, one after the other. And she leaves the casino while ordering her assistant to finish off all those present and not leave any trace of them so there are no witnesses. So the assistant carries out her words and the place turns into a massacre. And at that moment, Lindina calls White to ask him about the shipment, so he lets her know that it is ready, and he speaks to her in a bad way, and she says, "This is not the way to talk to your company." So he replies to her and says, "This is the last shipment, and with this, I have paid off all of my father's debts." But Lindina lets him know that his debts are not finished yet, and threatens him in an indirect way with death, just as she killed his father. And at that moment, White insists on his position and lets her know that he will not work with her again. So Lindina calls Habil and lets him know that they must teach White manners so he knows who he is working with, and orders him to hurt him in the thing he loves most. So of course, there is nothing that will hurt him except his son. For that reason, Habil decides to finish him. On the other side, Becca and her children are waiting for Hutch at the hotel, and at that moment, Hutch's father goes to them and reassures them about him, and lets them know that he will be late a little. At that time, Hutch takes his car and goes to White's warehouse. And at that time, Habil is handing over the money and the shipment, and also White's son, to Lindina's men to gain her satisfaction. So he asks his men to convey to her that he is very happy to be working with her and in her service. Here, Hutch enters on them with a jerrycan of gasoline and starts throwing it on the money, so Habil is shocked and asks him what he wants. And Hutch threatens them with burning the money and the chemical materials if any of them approach him. So Habil is forced to order his men to stop in their places and asks him what he wants. So Hutch demands from him to let him and his family spend their vacation and return to their country without problems. And Habil is forced to agree to his words. And before he leaves, he brings Max down from the car, and Hutch is shocked when he finds him tied up and understands that he is in danger. And at that moment, Habil orders him to leave quickly before he changes his mind, and orders his men to finish him off. So he doesn't leave them and goes out, but he can't leave Max to be harmed, and decides to return to them a second time to teach them manners. And from the intensity of his strength, Habil's men come out running from fear. So we see Hutch killing them with force and without mercy, and cuts the neck of one of them with the electric saw, and runs after that to Max to free him, and takes him, and escapes after blowing up the whole place with Habil. After that, Lindina finds out about what happened, and is in a state of shock when she finds out that her money and her shipment were blown up and became ashes. And at that moment, his men show her pictures of Hutch with his family, and confirm to her that he is responsible for what happened. So Lindina goes crazy, and at that moment, Habil calls her, and burns appear on his body in many places, and he asks her to send him a large team of her soldiers so he can manage to finish off Hutch, and confirms to her that he is a very dangerous person, and not just a tourist coming to visit the city. So Lindina gets angry at him and says to him, "I am coming to you myself," and hangs up in his face. Here, Hutch goes with Max to his father's cabin and checks on his wife and children, so Brady welcomes Max's presence among them, and Hutch talks with Becca and suggests to her that she distance herself from him because he couldn't keep his promise to her and stay away from problems, but Becca refuses and asks him to clean up what he did quickly so they can continue the rest of their vacation. So Hutch goes to White, and as soon as he enters on him, White tries to kill him, but Hutch blocks all his hits and hits him with his hand, knocking him to the ground so he calms down and listens to him. So he starts telling him that Habil kidnapped his son and was going to kill him, and continues for him the rest of what happened. And White thanks him and tells him that Lindina is a savage and crazy woman, and also killed his father. So they go to a room full of weapons, and he lets him know that his father was planning to kill her, but she got to him first and finished him off. And at that time, Lindina moves with the army of her men for Hutch. So we go to Hutch, who is setting his plan, and lets White know that they must evacuate the amusement city of everyone in it. And White carries out his words literally, and after they evacuate the place, they start planting in every inch a toy, bombs, mines, weapons, and knives, so they can manage to finish off Lindina's men. So Hutch takes the dog out of its cage to help them, and strangely, the dog obeys him. And at that moment, Harry and his father arrive to help Hutch and White in planting the weapons and bombs. So Hutch's father watches the road, and as soon as Lindina and her men approach, he lets them know at that time. After that, Lindina orders her assistant to take a group of his men and go finish off Hutch's family in the cabin. After that, we see Habil standing in front of Hutch and White, and offering to them to surrender themselves to Lindina before a massacre happens. So Hutch says to him, "We want to see," and Habil leaves them, and stands in front of Lindina's car signaling to her so his men attack. So Lindina orders his men to finish him off first, because she is fed up with his stupidity. And here, his men get down and shower him with bullets, finishing him off. So the war begins between her men and between Hutch and White starts setting off the bombs, and Hutch runs to activate the games and kills anyone from her men who appears in front of him. So the place becomes a massacre, and unfortunately, White is hit by a bullet in his leg, but he continues fighting. And on the other side, Lindina's assistant and his men arrive at the cabin. But before they enter, Harry appears to them with his tremendous and very sharp sword, cutting their necks one after the other. So after that, he gets into a sword fight with the assistant and manages to break his sword and cut his head off, separating it from his body. As for Brady, he grabs one of Lindina's men and chokes him until he finishes him off. And when Harry goes to him and sees the scene, he is very happy and encourages him for his strength. So we go to Hutch, who is standing in front of Lindina, and at that moment, he gets into a fight with two girls, and these are from her strongest men, and Lindina stands watching them. And before they finish him off, White shoots them with fire, finishing them off. So Lindina goes crazy when she sees the scene and stabs him with a knife in his chest and attacks Hutch to place a knife on his neck. And before she kills him, Becca arrives and shoots her with an arrow in her arm. So Lindina gets angry and throws a knife at her, but Becca throws an arrow in her eye, finishing her off, and runs to Hutch to check on him. So Hutch's father calls for them to escape quickly before the place explodes. So Harry and his children and Hutch stop from the cabin to watch the intensity of the explosion. After that, we return to the first scene, and we see Hutch and Bika and the dog sitting in front of the detectives, and they say to them, "We are just a married couple." And at that moment, a call comes to the detective from his boss and orders him to release them quickly. So the detective is forced to carry out their words while he is not convinced and removes the handcuffs for them. After that, we see Hutch watching with his family the pictures of the trip and decides to go to the city of Bloomville, again next summer. And with this, the events of our film today end.